Another round of one of your favorite series. Remember, I need your questions to keep this going, so leave your comments down below for rapid fire Q&A. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, info box down below for my mixing courses on ProMix Academy and free plugins, special discounts and offers. Also, if our videos are helping you, you wanna support the channel, click the join button down here. See all the perks of becoming a member. When would you pull up a reference track during mixing? Right in the beginning, after getting a rough balance, or towards the end? Personally, I do it the first time after the rough balance and for like less than 20 seconds, and then at the end. Definitely, that's how I use the reference tracks. And I don't use them that much, especially if it's something that I know very well, like a genre that I know very well or a song that I know very well. I just pull it up at the end. So yeah, I hope, but it's still important to reference, because especially if you mix for a long time, or if you're not a professional mix engineer and you have a fast turnaround, you mix 1-2 songs every 1-2 days, but you're on your own stuff for like a week or 3 weeks, it's definitely important to reference, and that's the only way you can somewhat have a fresh perspective. So yeah, I hope this answered the question. Ian Waligorski, favorite compressor for electric guitar bus? I have two. I have the Heritage Successor when I want to beef up the guitars, and I have the API 2500 when there's a stop and go part and I want the guitars to like snap and bounce, and the sound of the API too. So these two are my favorites. I actually have a video tutorial on my trick with the 2500s on guitar. Ita O, how often do you work out nowadays? 6 days a week, heavy, and 1 day of rest. Still from Ita0, when would you split tracks into verse? I usually split vocals in parts, verses, choruses, and bridges usually, just because the effects for me are usually very different. I don't split anything else that I can think of. I don't split bass, drums, stuff like that, unless there's a breakdown that is completely different. I just split vocals usually. John Elios, best way and or tools to master the art of mixing 0 to 250 Hertz content bass and other stuff. Monitoring system and ears. There's no other tool. The problem with that range is you can't hear it correctly, because most rooms have nulls, dips, and monitoring systems that don't go that low. Those things go down to, I don't know, hell. But yeah, the problem with low end is always about the monitoring system. It's never with the tool or the technique. When you can hear it, you can mix it. If you can't hear it, then the only other thing is, yes, you can use an analyzer to help you out, and a pair of good headphones. I use, for example, my Sennheiser, but that's about it. It's still about hearing them, you know? And that's pretty much it. Next question, Navi Ratlove, could you make a video on where to register as a starting musician to make sure that all the cash will go to you after releasing first CD? If you're independent and you're using DistroKid or CD Baby or stuff like that, well, it depends where you are in the world. Here in US, you register with either BMI or ASCAP. In Germany, you register with a Gamma, I think it's called. So, and then there's the royalty exchange, sound exchange, something like that. But if you're using a platform, once you register on one of the copyright companies, all the cash will go to you automatically. You just make sure you register your piece of music. But I can do a video on that for sure. Leon Riffin, do you use reverb on your mastering chain? No. I've seen few engineers use it before the limiter, just attaching the high mids or subtle depth. I'm just curious what your thoughts are. No, I probably used it 2 times in my whole career. And I remember one, because the band wanted a live feeling, like an obvious live club feeling. And that was just simply like the easiest thing to do. But I don't want to listen to that again because I might regret what I did. But no, I know some use it, some people use it. I don't like it. I rather dealing with reverb than mixing on single tracks. Next question, Barry Magner. Can you tell if someone has nice converters just by listening to the Mixmaster? No, you can't. You can tell if a mix sounds bad, but it could be anything, you know? Bad converters, and especially if you're mixing in the box, there's no way to say it. You should first of all know that this person has a hybrid system that went in and out several times, and then it's not that a bad converter has a recognizable sound unless you clip it in and out 50 times. It's just you feel and you hear that the mix doesn't sound good. If you have a shitty converters and you run half of the tracks in and out like a couple of times to use maybe crappy outboard at that point. But no, you can't tell. You can't tell. And if you're staying in the box, you can't tell. What you can tell, for example, and this is just a joke, if the mix sound bad, they have a bad DA converter, so their monitoring system sound bad, but it's just a joke. No, you can't tell. Alberto, have you ever felt your mood changes the way you mix? Say you're angry and you're end up making something more aggressive, or you're sad and you end up with something darker. Absolutely, 100%. I am 100% like that. It depends how I feel in that moment. I make different decisions based on what's going on in my life, what's going on that day. But also I have the ability, so to speak, to let the song tell me how to feel. So if my mood that day doesn't match the song, I will get into the song mood. Because you're a professional, you need to be able to do that. So if you are in a sad and, mopey mood, but you have a fun and uplifting and upbeat song, and you feel like the mood doesn't match, you better, slap yourself in the face and get like happy and in that mood for the time you have to mix. That's what a professional does. But overall, if the mood you have matches the song that day, definitely go with it. If something is somewhat coherent, maybe it's aggressive and you feel like making it darker, it goes well together, but that's your taste, But yeah, definitely, I feel like what you feel and what the songs are trying to convey, they should be linked and work together. Okay, so yes, definitely. Art Lucas, is top-down mixing a good way to start a mix? If you ask me, yes, because that's the way I mix. I do my rough mix, I set my 2-bus compression and whatever else, my chain, and then I start grouping things and work on groups. And after that, I go to single tracks and effects and all that. So yeah, definitely. For me, it's the way to mix, like I mix top-down. Andrei Sofonelkov, how not to beat the crap out of a rapper who come to session not prepared? Xanax. Rob Layman, do you play any instrument? I play bass. I know how a guitar works and I can play a little bit of key and I can program drums, that's it. But I'm not a master at any instrument. But my main instrument would be guitar and bass. And by guitar, I mean rhythmic guitar, and I down tune it and I play like a bass. Richard Vig, Yamaha HS7, Kali LP6, KRK Rocket 7 for electronic music. I'm not a fan of KRK. I love the LP6. I have very little experience with Yamaha. I like the Kali LP6 better than both of those. I like for electronic music the Kali LP8 better, which I have. You don't see them here, but I have those two. Next question, Petri Nakila. What's the meaning of life? Love. You didn't see that coming from me, huh? Next question, Johnny Vegas. What's the LUFS magic number for mastering, considering iTunes or Spotify will most likely change the loudness levels? Well, we talked about this with the mix and mastering the mix plugins and the True Peak limiter and the other plugins called levels. Every platform has a different requirements. So I think Spotify, we agreed it was like minus 14 LUFS. But again, the problem with the LUFS is I have right now a mastering course, a mini mastering course video, which is still an intro prize on hip hop. That I wish people would get it because that is a very good example on a great mix turned into a better master, and it's loud. It's, I think, 7 LUFS, but at the beginning of the course, I level match the mix with the master. Okay, so you don't hear difference in volume, you hear difference in density, details, clarity in the vocals, low end punch, high end being more polished. So it's not a matter of just level, it's a matter that a good master will just make a mix sound better. Of course, the LUFS, it becomes a problem when people try to push shitty mixes to high levels. Okay, that is when everything goes bad, because they want loudness, they don't care about how the mix sounds, and the mix is unbalanced to begin with. So at that point, that's a lose-lose situation, because you get turned down and your mix sounds like crap. But if your mix sounds good and the mastering is done well, you don't need to push it to -7 or 6 or 5, but you also don't need to leave it at -14, because it's not a matter of loudness, it's a matter of density. Certain genres especially benefit from a certain kind of grit and compression and density in the mix, because it's a feeling. If you hear a loud mix at a low volume, it will still give you a sense of power if it's done well. It will not give you a sense of it's choked and it's slow. That's a bad master, okay? That's not a matter of like, oh, they're tuning down my mix to whatever, so I don't push it that high. Yes, it's useless to go for stupid high level. I actually print different versions for a client recently for streaming and CD and club play, but they all sound the same, like mostly the same, okay? Meaning it's again a matter of density. Even if the volume, even if one version, I did one version at -6 and one version at -12, I think, but they sound pretty similar. They're still dense, all right? So it's a matter of how good the mastering is, more than the level. The magic number is on the platforms. They will tell you what's their reference. I don't remember by heart. I think Spotify's -14. SoundCloud, I think it's a lot higher than that. I don't know how about iTunes, and I think YouTube doesn't have it or something like that. Anyway, the numbers are there, but don't focus on that. Focus on how good the master sounds, and then you decide the level, all right? Because this is another important thing. Given the same LUFS level, so let's say I give you my master a -10 or -14, whatever, and you compare it to another mix at -10 and -14, you could perceive my mix, my master, a lot louder than the other. That is what I mean when I say density, okay? And they could measure the same number. So the number tells only part of the story, okay? You can compare two mixes having the same number, LUFS, measurements, but they sound, one is gonna sound louder than the other. So I hope this answered the question, and I hope it doesn't complicate things more instead. Next question from Twitter, Mariano Bellini. Hi, David, writing from Argentina. I'm glad that you've got your channel back. Thank you. How do you approach a track with only a guitar and vocals? Do you high pass, and which is the best way to reach the same or similar loudness that the other tracks in the album that are full band? Do I high pass? It depends. Most likely yes, but it depends how it was recorded. Most likely you will have to do some high pass, yes. The other part of the question is interesting. How do you reach the similar loudness? That's the funny thing. Some of the loudest songs that I heard are either acoustic or very, very minimal. And I can think of, for example, go and listen to Solitary Man acoustic version by Johnny Cash, or Personal Jesus by Johnny Cash. Same album, Americana 4 or 5, something like that. I think Rick Rubin produced. They feel so loud. It's crazy. An acoustic song that is just vocal and guitar will very rarely measure the same numbers, LUFS or RMS, than a full track on a full band. It can't. There's not enough information, there's not enough average information for that to measure that those numbers. But they should, if mixed correctly, sound even louder than a metal mix or, you know, a full band mix. So it's just a matter in those cases of clarity. When you have little elements in one song, you can make them as big as you want because you don't have to fight with anything else. If you don't get that, it's because either the vocals or the guitars or the recordings are not good. Because the mixing and the perceived loudness, it should be loud and clear, a track without vocal and guitar. Okay, I actually have a series on the channel on mixing, recording and mixing acoustic guitars and vocals, so check that out. Hope this answered the question. Stanislaw, how do you build a client base? $1 million question. Go talk to people, do work for free, build a portfolio, and do more work for free. And eventually, if you're good, people will listen to your stuff, will ask their friends who mix that, and network. Go to events, go to clubs, go where the music is, go where the bands are, go where the genre you're interested in mixing is, whether it's clubs, whether it's hangouts, bars, anything. That's how you do it. Get to know people, meaning not just musicians, but labels, promoters, event planners, all the people in the industry, everybody. Hang out to parties as much as you can where the industry is around. And yeah, at the beginning you will have to do quite some free work. Offer your services, maybe assisting someone for free, you know, or you can try interning in a studio. Today is very hard, but at the beginning be prepared of not making any money for a given amount of time before you actually can live off of this or even have a chance to. Okay, that in short. Bones V, Romanian deadlift or regular deadlift? If you have to pick one, always regular. And I pull sumo, but I also train conventional. And Romanian deadlift I consider an accessory exercise. So between the two, if you have to pick one, always regular deadlift. Electronic Death Black Dogs, love your name. Best approach for working with wide stereo synths that need panning. They're already stereo, so I always leave everything stereo, hard left, right. If you need panning, you can do either EQ in one side, different from the other, that will shift the image, or use a simple plugin like S1, which is something that I use all the time, to shift and tilt the stereo image. Let's say you have two stereo synths that are like this, you make them like this with the S2. All right, that's something that I really like. I also love the Brower motion. And when you think synth and panning, also think movement. Don't always think static panning. All of my mixes have a lot of elements that move into the stereo field. That's automation, okay? So I hope this answered the question. Red Pat Audio, do you mix into any kind of mastering plugins? If you mean limiters or like Ozone all-in-one plugin, no, I don't. I don't mix into any limiters. I don't mix into any all-in-one mastering plugin at all. I mix into my hardware chain. Mixing is not mastering. And two-bus processing is not mastering. Soundcast Studio, do you think you personally could make a track you'd be proud of with stock plugins only? We're talking producing or mixing? Producing, I think producing and mixing. Mixing with stock Pro Tools plugin, it's hard. I had to do it. I had to do it last week and I was, oh my God. It's really, really hard. With the stock basic Pro Tools plugin, it's really hard. I know people say, oh, you can do it. No. No, you just lose inspiration and everything is no. Maybe with the Air bundle, the Creative Air bundle and some other things, but you need, for Pro Tools users, you need at least a good bundle. It's either like even just the waves renaissance with a couple of effects, like a cool colored effects and a couple of good saturators. Yeah, that will do. Or Fab Filter, sweet, but still you need a couple of good effects like delays and reverbs and even just, you know, Echo Boy and, you know, the Abuser saturator or some other stuff like that. But it's really hard. I don't know about other DAWs. Like Logic. I know Logic probably has a much better stock plugin bundle than Pro Tools. I don't know, and probably Nuendo too. That's what I think. As for producing, I actually like the instruments in Pro Tools. It lacks on a drum thing. You know, anything drum, you need something extra. But you know, for the stock synths and stuff, they're basic. But most pop, especially if you have to produce pop music, there so many tracks have like expand sounds. You know, the expand sound module on Pro Tools, so many, like number one have that virtual instrument on them. Pop and hip hop and trap, yeah, because that's what they have. You know, that's what they have at home when they produce, and that's what they use, and it ends up in the final track. For mixing Pro Tools, it's hard. It's really hard. For other DAWs, I don't know. I hope this answered the question. And what's your new loudness weapon, David? Saturation, distortion? Well, lately, let me think. Saturate, it's one that I really like. I recently got Inflator back because I didn't have it in this system. What else? The Abuser by Audiority, it's insane. K-Clip 3 is still a loudness monster. What else? I feel like, oh, the Vase collection of Soft Tube, that it's for transparency, that's great. These are pretty much the latest, of course. Then I use all the others that I've always used because I don't give up. My lo-fi stock Pro Tools or Ozone Exciter are still great. And as maximizer wise, I still like Ozone Maximizer a lot, and the new Vase is insane. The Sonox limiter is another one, even though it's not one of the most transparent, still, you know, punches really hard on some tracks. So these are my, and of course, you don't see it, but I have a Craneson head converter, ADD converter mastering, and I, you know, sometimes hit that hard, like to clipping to get the loudness. But yeah, these are my weapons. Bonzi, favorite guitar, amp, and cab. I'll throw in the guitar too. Which is it would be a baritone Les Paul. And favorite guitar, amp, and cab, I wanted to say I'm debating between three. Ubershaw PV60 65 plus, is that the number, the 5150, and Framus Cobra. And as for the cab, probably the Mesa Oversize, yeah. With actually, I would say with Vintage 30 on top and GT 75 at the bottom. But the head, it would be it would be a war between those three. Tom Haste, for electronic music production, when in the creation and or mix process do you add reverb and delay and other spatial processing? It's always such a chicken and egg situation when working with artificial sound and instrument. Personally, I add, I do my rough mix, I do my dynamics, I do my basic EQs, and when the mix is over 50%, I start adding delays and reverb. Unless I have one delay, usually more than a reverb, that is so upfront and becomes a part of either a rhythmic part or like a very important element in a mix, then I add it earlier. But I usually wait as long as I can to add reverbs and delays because I'm a control freak. I want to hear my mix dry, how it sounds, because I know when I add those things will sound better. So I want to make my life harder for as long as possible before, you know, relaxing and, you know, start playing, because for me it's fun when I add reverbs and delays. So very, like, way over 50% of the mix. Hope this answered the question. Barn Show, what's your why for the career of audio engineering? Meaning, other than the obvious reason, passion, what purpose motivates you to work hard and keep going and going? After that was a bit of a challenge. I realized how hard mixing was, and so many things, so many variables. And I'm a control freak, I'm a detail-oriented person. So that was a really big challenge because I knew I could do it. I felt like I could do it, but I also felt like, I need to work so hard to get there, to get the highest levels. Of course, I started to listen to the mixes that I like and start analyzing, and I started dissecting them. And it was like a small challenge after small challenge. I wanted to understand how to get that sound. After that, it was, part was because people were happy with my mixes, and to turn a demo into a record, it's something that is, you know, is gratifying, satisfying. Lately, because probably a big part of it is because of my artist, the artist that I'm producing, Bella, and that's a big part of why I keep going on and going hard, because I think that's the evolution, that's the next step. I created it from nothing, you know, so it steps beyond just mixing the track, but I created everything. So those are a few reasons, sorry for as to why, but yeah, all in all, it's either you like to be in this environment and, you know, you like the challenges, or this is not for you. I hope this answered the question. And this is it for this rapid fire Q&A. As usual, if you like the video, please don't forget to leave a like. Leave your questions for the next round of rapid fire Q&A in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the join button if you want to support the channel and access to exclusive content. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.